Welcome back to Port Elizabeth, the beautiful city. This is part 38. Before I start, just to correct my last video, I said I was recording it in 2020. It's obviously 2022. Look at this view down Baakens Street towards Main Street. And this is really a classic example of how much culturally important heritage architecture there is in this city. Every building here is from around the turn of the 20th century, so late 19th century, early 20th century. Apart from that Art Deco one right at the end there. So you've got the old post office boarded up on the, as you can see, at ground level, with a replaced roof, sadly. Then the municipal building on the left, far left, and then the Feather Market Hall. You've got another Art Deco building, plain house, and then the main library from 1901. So this is a sort of precinct that in a Western capital, Western European capital, would be preserved and used as a focal point for tourism. It reflects our colonial history, a fantastically proud history in terms of what was created in this country. So anyway, that's just by the by. We're starting here and we're going to see where, I think we go up Military Road now. Yeah, it's a Military Road with the Herald building on the left. And up here is the Wool Exchange building. And they, since the new government took over, they've converted that into the city, the city council meeting place, because there isn't a room, wasn't a place big enough in the city hall except for the hall itself, the committee rooms and so forth. Couldn't accommodate all 120 councillors plus all the officials, etc. So this building from about 1903, although it says on the side that it was established in 1845, which is correct, but the Herald moved several times before it got to the corner of Military and Baakens Streets. But of course, with time, the management just let this place go to rot, and they left this whole complex, Newspaper House, in, I think, 2020 or so. So heading up Baakens Street, Military Road, and there's the Markham Hotel, which is in its second iteration. Well, it's actually now a student digs. It has been revamped, but it was a hotel in this sort of Art Deco style. But before that, around about the same time, or even before the first Herald building on the corner, a lovely building stood here, really sort of classic 19th century hotel. So anyway, we're heading up. This used to be a shop here. I think it was all boarded up. And these two cottages next to each other were owned by Times Media. I've subsequently been past there, and of course there's now big black fencing all around here just to protect against vandals. But look at this sort of sloping road, you know. That's what gives this place so much character. And then between the cottage on the left and the Wool Exchange is this rear side elevation of the Feather Market Hall. And here an Art Deco block of flats being allowed to be somewhat run down. Look at the name there, Dougleash, very Scottish. It's the name of the street to the left there. Built on the rock, eh? This is Walton's printing works on the left there. So yeah, E.H. Walton's looks quite historic too. And there you can see just sticking out is St. Augustine's Catholic church with these two beautiful cottages here in the front. Above here, this is where Kyla Crescent ends, and I do a walk along here. There's some more historic cottages, settler cottages there. You can just see the flag, the massive flag on the Donkin Reserve. And Fort Frederick here in the distance. So there actually used to be a path that ran all along here. There are historic photographs taken from here down the river towards where the harbour is now. It was just a lagoon with a small jetty and so forth in the late 19th century. Yeah, so this is quite a nice view across the Feather Market Hall here of St. Augustine's. I'd forgotten about this. And they're the two sort of arches of the Feather Market Hall or centre. Another really classic melange, is that the word, of architectural styles, and I like the colours even. So we're looking up Military Road. It's actually sometimes hard to tell up from down in a photograph like this. But if you look at the slope of these houses, you know, they're all built much higher on the right than on the left. Above here is Hope Street, which I never actually ever got to because it was just so desolate. And buildings are, as you'll see, falling apart up there, burnt out shells, some of them. These are great colours. I just love this. And even the fact they've left this unpainted or painted cream, quite fun, really. So that's that corner government. I think this used to be the municipal printing works. I don't know what it is today, with the old post office having lost the roof, replaced by that sort of thing. And then newspaper house. This is where I worked, although we always entered at the back. So I rarely used this entrance. Tradesman's entrance for the journalists. Yeah. And Wizandla, we've seen this before. These were old warehouses from the late 19th century. Gap between them towards E.H. Walton. A nice sky, isn't it? Just complementing the buildings. Tramways building ahead. This would have been the old North Union Street. And they've sort of revamped the thing and allowed these palms to grow through the pavement. It's quite fun. So we're going to take a look now at what's happened at the Feather Market Hall since my earlier post. Not the Feather Market, the Tramways building, which is where my grandfather worked for about, I don't know how many decades, in the early to mid 20th century. So there it sits on the Baakens River, and often there are pictures of the Baakens in flood and the water's right up to here, you know. In fact, when it was a tramway station, at one point they had to take the trams out because it was so flooded, and I guess they got water damage. So this was some really creative restoration work, I think. it's still not complete. You can see it's still bordered off here. I do like the colors they've used. I think everything works. And this still, yeah, the first time I photographed this, it was in a similar condition, but I mean, this ultimately gets integrated into the whole thing. Yeah, here we can see work proceeding to include it. And then across the road, St. Mary's. Now, I actually go back there because last time I wasn't able to capture as many of the tombstones as I would have liked. So we're going to have another look at a few of them, and you can stop the video anytime and read the information. This guy received the Victoria Cross here. It's interesting. Died 1861, age 37, served in the Crimean War, for gallantry received the VC. Stone erected by his brother officers. So Lieutenant and Adjutant J. Craig of the 2nd 10th Foot. Cattle. What a surname. Died, looks like 1866. Painful suffering of 4 days caused by a railway accident. Born 1776, landed 1820, died 1837. That's quite a story. Eh? A long time ago, 1776. I think something happened in America around about then. So, shattered tombstones, eh? This is vandalism, plain and simple, with the tramways building in the background. Born in Devon. So remember that song, John Brown, was it John Brown's Body? Lies a moulding in the grave. If life's a farce, mere children play, let the rich trifle it away. I could not model mine by theirs, for mine has been a life of cares. Huh. In the midst of life, we are in death. Very uplifting, that. Mr. Bean. Oh, McBean. The stone is in memory of also of 4 infants of the above. That's 5 infant deaths for one couple, John and Emma Walker. Yeah, and they say the European settlers had an easy time of it. They just came here and, you know, we all fade as a leaf. I like that. For as in Adam all die, so in Christ shall all be made alive. Some old world sort of wisdom here. No relation to Bill Gates, I hope. He was not left to linger long and waste by slow decay. Death like a mighty whirlwind came and swept his life away. What joy is that? Sure. This guy born in Cornwall died here in 1878. And this was a disgrace. Vagrants in a totally unpoliced area. Another vagrant readout. Books scattered here. So I call it literary litter. And a view of the tramways building being revamped. St. Peter's Anglican Church above, just visible here. That's the ruin of that South End church, which we visited previously. Born in Wexford, Ireland, died 1852. A very odd looking headstone here. Broken Celtic cross. Sad. We saw this in a previous visit here. Born at Wantage in Berkshire, 1810, would have come out with the British settlers. Set square and compass of the Freemasons. Here's a nice wide-angle view. I see my son Doug. Where's he? Oh, there on the left, yeah. My backup. So I hope, now why would this tombstone have got so weathered? But I hope all these are still here since I was last here. I know there's talk of them removing some of these tall blue gum trees, which lose their big heavy branches every so often in the wind. So it looks like we're heading out now. I'm just trying to record as many of these as possible for posterity. Urquhart. So we had a photographer called Colin Urquhart on our staff. A very hard name to pronounce if you're unfamiliar with it. Oh, it's a lot bigger, the cemetery, than one thinks. There's so many tombstones here. There's one I'm looking out for. I don't know if I got to, and that's one of the first editors of the Herald. He's buried here. But let's see if I can spot it. Probably missed it. I think it's actually this one here. I don't think I'll get to it this time. I actually have to go back a third time. His surname is MP. I'm so close to it there. George Whitehead. So we're heading out. Okay, so this, so apparently these warehouses might be down here somewhere. I think it's these. This is from 1892. No, the Opera House was opened in 1892. This is 1850s, I think. This is the back of the Herald building with those warehouses. This used to be the dispatching section where they filled the vans up with newspapers and carted them off. Produce Street. That's where I used to park in there. I'm going to have to leave it at this because we're getting over time here. Cheers.